Welcome back, everyone, to a Mindset Medicine podcast. I am your host, Katharine Loucaidou. I am a business coach, entrepreneur, and so many other titles. But I want to introduce you to the most fabulous woman leader, entrepreneur that you will hear, probably the best one this year. And I'll tell you why. I met her through a coaching company, and I resonated with her immediately. We got along. It was like we understood each other on so many different levels because we had the same mindset. So today we are going to cover a whole range of topics. So whether you are a leader, an entrepreneur, whether you are a woman in leadership or a man, it doesn't matter, because we're just going to be talking about topics that will cover anything to do with business and life in a very holistic way. So I am going to introduce you to Heather May, and she is going to give us a little background on who she is, what she's done, and then we're just going to dive right in. So Heather, thank you for, just spending time with me this afternoon. This is going to be so great.
No, thank you. I'm so excited too. And I was so happy to get your message to say, hey, let's connect and let's do this, because you're absolutely right. You nailed it. We had that connection like right away on the phone, because when you're in the same space with someone, like that energy. And then it was our vocabulary too, right? We were
Yes.
speaking the same language.
Oh
on the
my gosh, totally.
like on table. And so thank you for the introduction. So yes, my name is Heather May. I'm a business and I'm a business and success coach for female entrepreneurs is who I work with. But absolutely the topics that I talk about, bridge male, female, but I like to focus on female entrepreneurs. That's who I work with. And you nailed it just right. Because, I talk about coming at this from a holistic success perspective.
Yes.
I was thinking about a holistic. And what I've realized is after 20 years of being in the fitness industry and coaching on food and fitness and nutrition in the body, I'm able to see I'm taking that lens with me and moving into the business space. I've only been an entrepreneur. I've only worked for myself. I left college. I started my own businesses.
Really?
And that's all I've ever done is I've had a couple, it was always like a slash. So I did my business slash I would have something, but I'm taking all that with me. And what I know with, 100% certainty at this stage is that it's all connected. We know that mindset is 80% of everything, whether I am trying to get you to work out, to change your food, to switch your branding, to change your positioning, like to market yourself online. It's 80% mindset and 20% strategy. So it is this holistic perspective of how do you become successful, particularly in the online space? How do you become successful in the online space?
Yeah.
Well, I know that we can't do it until we address everything from a very holistic perspective. And then to layer onto it, coming into why I focus on female entrepreneurs, that is very tied to my mission, in the movement, I should say, like even more powerfully, like it's the movement, because I know that, like what happens to women in the workplace or in motherhood, or just like our entire journey, we kind of lose this confidence throughout. We kind of lose our path at all these different spots. But
let's stop there for a second.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? Why is it that we see males, as they keep climbing, right? It's more confidence. Whereas I find that women, it's like confidence and then plateau, and then confidence and then plateau, or sometimes you even start going backwards again.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? I know I have my ideas and my perspective, but I'd love to hear yours.
Yeah, I mean, I love talking about this, so I'd love to, just go back and forth a little bit too. But, I think that it's a lot of the message that too, like what I see and feel like it's the message that we're being sent, right? I always when I was a little girl, we spent, years practicing to be a mom, practicing to be a mommy, practicing to do the house, practicing to do this, practicing to do that. And then at some point they're like, and now what are you going to be when you grow up? They're like, oh, shoot. I thought I was a mom and I was practicing to do that. But then we also know how smart little girls and women are, and like how freaking smart. So to see all these opportunities to further educate and further evolve, like we want that too. Okay, so I'm going to go and try on that identity as well. But then it's like, we'll choose which one, right? Like, I think that there's just so many like forks in the road for women versus like, if we can look at men comparatively, it seems like a more like straighter path, right? Like we're meant to choose at all these paths. So I think that it's, part of just like our evolution as going from little girl to, teen to woman. And then like, I'm calling it right now, the queen era, like very much understanding, like I get to do whatever it is that I want to do. And there's a power in that. But I think that that's just my observation. We have more forks in the road where we're meant to reinvent ourselves. So, maybe it's even us being able to have that conversation and that shift to say, hey, it's coming. Like the fork in the road is coming, instead of us being like, oh, fork in the road again, like they're coming and we have these opportunities to do that. But we also need like the conversation to be around that, to feel supported in that.
So that's really fun. I love, like, I'm going to pull out some of the things that you were talking about now. So for example, I love that you said it's choosing which identity. I've asked other people this question, mostly women. And I would say, well, what is it that you would like to do? And do you know that at that point, it's like literally the conversation shuts down because they look at me blankly and they said, well, I've never had a chance to think about it, because they're always running, right? And and I like how you said that there's sort of like all these forks in the road, and it's, like there's this path of motherhood, and then there's this path of, you're a wife or a partner to someone, and then you're this and you're this, and there's like all these identities attached to you. But at the end of the day, I think here's where I've learned over the years that it's just what you do, but it's not who you are. We keep calling it identity. Like I identify as a wife, a mother, things. Well, that's okay. But the problem is that if your whole identity is tied to that role that you happen to be playing in that chapter of your life, then you've never thought beyond, okay, well, then when these children grow up and now they're at high school, let's start at high school where they really don't want to be around their parents anymore. And then the parents sort of step back and go, well, now what? Like, what am I good for now? Right? What's my role now beyond all this? And I'll tell you what's really fascinating. I just had a coaching call with a lady, and she is in the later part of her life, and she has had a falling out with her daughter, and they were running the same business together. And she has basically said, I actually don't know who I am beyond working with her. She's like, I don't know. Like, I don't even know if I need coaching anymore. I have no more why. Yeah. And I thought, that's the shame. And that if people were to come to business, understanding who they are, remove the mother, remove the wife, remove, all these titles, who are you left with? That is your identity. But no one ever gives themselves a chance to think about it.
That's so, so powerful, right? Because there's so much wrapped into that, right? It's, what I heard too is, right, we have the choice, right? I heard choice, I heard season, like and that we're capable. I think too, right? It's almost like a bigger idea there is that we're not capable of holding all of it. So you must choose. When women are the most powerful creatures I have ever knowing, and I see that, and not just like, I'm not just blessed to have seen one powerful woman. I see powerful women capable all day long, right? So I think it's like, we know this, right? But then we doubt it, or the story is like, choose, instead of it being like, no, we actually have the capacity to hold all of it, and not the capacity, and thus we burn out. But like, what if the conversation just started to become like, and I don't know why it's resonating, but like, queen, you have the capacity to hold it all and the capacity to put things down, right? And like, and pick them back up and like, you know, you can. No, you can. Like it's the capacity, you're capable.
So here's something interesting that I read, and I've heard a few people talk about it. We'll go to business for a second. So The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, people are so fascinated by him because, you know, he started as a wrestler, right? And then he moved into acting. And Arnold Schwarzenegger has done the exact same thing. And so many people. So first, I'm going to give you where I'm going, and then I'll give you these little stories. So many people believe that you cannot pivot and to something completely different because you have this identity behind it. So if The Rock and Arnold Schwarzenegger had remained, power lifter, bodybuilder, Arnold Schwarzenegger, or The Rock wrestler, well, then each of them would never have gone to the next level of actor. Then the next level for Arnold Schwarzenegger was, well, now I'm just going to go into politics because I want to. And if you watch his documentary, he says, well, I don't understand. Why not?
Yeah.
And what a good way of thinking, like, why not? Right. So, and it's not like he had the credential to go from power lifter to actor to politician to mayor. And the same thing with The Rock, you know, to go from wrestler to actor to football ownership to tequila or tequila company. This is the idea behind it, I believe, is that you don't have to put yourself in this box of this one role and identity that you think you have to stay in. It's okay to expand. And we were just talking about expansion before we started to press play here. So why don't we dig into that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, again, like this, it's cracked open so many things. Like I love it. I did write pivot, verse and expand, right? So absolutely, like taking those two guys into, to their true stories, they absolutely pivoted, right? They pivoted because it's not like they didn't pull that with them. But I think what you even uncovered even more, which was what you alluded to earlier, is like, well, it's that their core remained the same and they just put on a suit, right? An identity around it, but that they can take the suit off or the identity and the core remains the same. So what is it at their core that they knew? They knew that they were capable. They believed in themselves, right? And they thought like, why not? Like that they both thought, but why not? Right. Like, so that like those things that become their core identity had nothing to do with the label, like the label, the dress, they can just put on the new dress, but at the core, who are you? So I think that within that expansion, I think if we just really talk about what that really means, like it's like, you knowing that you're capable, it's part of your core. Like you can expand and pivot as many times as you want. And it doesn't seem out of character because your character doesn't change, right?
Yes.
I think that is really the thing that we want to get to is people knowing, right? And understanding and like going back to who are you at your core? Even you asking other women like, well, what do you want to do? Well, nobody can know that unless they're really clear about who they are, right? And like that, to know who you are, we don't often get asked that, right? Even I will tell you, and I still have to do this. Like when I'm in a course or working, doing some personal development, it's like, what are your core values? What are your beliefs? And I'm like, I need a list of core values. I don't know, like I didn't know really what that even meant.
Yeah.
That like those conversations, it's not like my child is in, kindergarten right now being like, here are some core values. What resonates with you, buddy? Right?
No.
It's not a conversation. So we're missing that, like internal know of who you are.
And what's interesting is when people start a business, they tend to skip over that step because they're so unused to being asked, right? Like, who are you? What do you want your company or yourself to believe in? Or what is it that you don't believe in? What are ways of doing business that you are against? Right? How do you want to conduct yourself in business? Where is the line for you? Right? Where are your boundaries? And this is something that I try and I've taught over the years to real estate agents or anyone in business. What are your boundaries? You know, my son is 25 and him and his partner have a digital media company. And right from the beginning, I kept teaching him boundaries. Like, you know, the way people speak to you. I said, you need to ask for that respect, right? It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter how long you've been in business. You have to ask for the respect. And that's where you have a boundary. When people cross that, you get to decide now, do you want to work with them? And he was like, well, you know, but we're just starting out. And I said, no. Starting out and being disrespectful have nothing to do with each other. And I think we can talk about that in all kinds of businesses, that there have to be these boundaries, but you can't have the boundaries until you know where you stand in life and with your beliefs.
It's so true. And I think this is coming to light a little bit more. The conversation is becoming a little more highlighted. And I really believe that the reason it is this concept of the personal brand.
Mhm.
So it's understanding, like we're hearing it more and more, right? You're gonna now you're it's in your ear, you're gonna see it everywhere. Everyone's talking about, personal branding.
Yes.
And the reason, like like a lot of a lot of steps got us to this personal branding concept, but we're online, we're working for ourselves. People are trying to either start a side hustle or become an entrepreneur, right? Like all these things. So we have this opportunity now to become the company, to become the brand. And then when we start to talk about, personal branding, this is the message that you're going to be getting. Like you get to decide not who the business is and who you are. This becomes one in the same.
Yeah.
And so this personal branding, this is the work that I'm doing right now in my new container, but like it's personal development. So
Yeah.
I'm taking everything that I've ever been doing when I've been working in personal development and working on your body and working on your fitness. And then everything I know about, building a business and marketing online. And it just like someone else named it personal brand. I just get to, talk about it now.
Yeah.
But what I see is the personal brand is the personal development. So now it's becoming more of a conversation, and we'll see the stronger your knowing of yourself and building from the inside out with this like integrity, this framework, these knowing what you stand for, what you stand against, what are the boundaries that you want to set up, what's the movement, who do you want to serve, right? Like this is going to be the brands that stand the test of time, these and allow you to pivot and evolve, because the core, right? So my offers can change, just like my role can change. I can be the wrestler to the business owner, to the actor, because the core is the same. That's why I love it.
Yeah. But and I think, even when I was watching that documentary on Arnold Schwarzenegger or even watching, what The Rock has posted, what's interesting is both of them said, I'm still the same person. Like I'm still the same guy who acted in that movie, and I'm still the same guy who was a mayor. And now I'm still back to acting again, even after having finished that role. And The Rock is the same. Like if you watch him, he has not changed. His character is still warm. He's friendly. He's funny. He hasn't, exchanged this role for this type of character that I'm going to give up because of it. This is who I am, and I'm going to infuse each role with who I am. Yep. But what I'd love to do is to actually go from what we're talking about now, because I think that all that mindset and your values and beliefs, let's go into visibility, because we were chatting quickly about that before we started. And I thought that's a really good one. And here's why. And I know that I'm not going to say struggled with it, but it's been a little bit of a struggle. Let's talk about social media and, the visibility that we put out there to our audiences. Some people have been on social media a long time, and people know this persona and this identity and these roles that you've played. But then as you pivot and now you've got this mix of old audience, new audience, even newer audience, and your goals are different for each one. Let's dive into that a little bit because it can be very confusing for people. And what do I do? Like, how are people going to get confused? Am I different people now? What do you think?
Oh, I love that. And I love that you noticed and reflected on that, right? So let's just compare, I will say, compare my 18-year-old nephew, right? The only thing that he has ever, he's only used social media for visibility. He hasn't used it for sharing with his family, right? Like this was all his personal brand, right? Meaning he didn't know, he wasn't trying to start a business. He doesn't have a business, but it's all his personal brand. He shows the audience exactly what he wants them to see. That, the things that like where this older generation, our generation, who has only used social media for 2 decades to share family and friends and highlight, right? And you're like, and like you still have your personal brand on there, but your brand was, girlfriend from high school, or, or that it became mom.
Mom. Yeah. And mom lasted like so many years, right?
So I recognize that. And that's definitely, there is a part of you when it comes to that visibility, where it's just going to be an internal conversation with yourself and a permission that you need to give yourself to say, thank you, social media, for the role that you played as, my window and letting people into my mom life or my dad life or just my life before business. But now social media has changed.
Yes.
So it's not just you who is changing. Social media has changed. And it is now, yes, some people are still using it to connect. There is going to be, evolutions of those, platforms over time, but social media has changed. And as an entrepreneur, aspiring entrepreneur, like you are smart enough to witness the change and to say, I'm going with that flow.
Yeah.
So you can, resist it and meet two different people, or you can say, just that internal permission to say, I'm going to go with the flow of social media. I'm a smart, savvy business person. I see where this is going, and it's already gone. It's taken off. Like it's there. It's not even like tiptoeing. Like it's running in that direction where almost all of our platforms are a platform now for your personal brand business.
Yes.
And you can leverage it to be visible, to make money in your business. You absolutely can. That's the opportunity that you're given. So, that's just one way to start like looking at that platform conversation with yourself internally.
It's true. And, when I was teaching social media marketing, and I remember I was hired to teach a social media marketing course for businesses, for small businesses here by our municipality. So, there I was. First question that I was asked every time I taught this class was, do I need 2 pages? Do I need a personal page and do I need a business page? And do I only post business on the business page? And it was interesting because back then, and it's actually gone through so many different cycles of first it was, yes, you keep them separate. And then, 5 years passed and it was like, no, now you're going to mix and match. And then I think we've come to now where the business page, people are still going to be going to your personal page. They really want to know who you are, what you're like, before they decide that they want to do business with you. But on the business page, they really do want to see what business are you running. And then that business page obviously allows you to do ads and so on. But I do find that there's not this either or. It's just your personal profile is now your personal brand, basically. And if you're going to hold back from posting your business and what you're doing on it, it's sort of like you're at a loss. Because I think that really is where everyone is going. It's not to your business page. It's just the business page is just sort of there to perform a function for you. Otherwise, yeah. What are your thoughts?
Oh, right. You observed it so, the same way that I have observed it. Because when I also within that marketing, teaching the marketing class, what first two questions are exactly that. Do I
Yeah.
need to start another page? Can I? Or even just like, can I start another page? Because there's a part of me that would die to post anything about my business on my page.
Yeah.
So I think that, and it's like everything is connecting in this conversation where it is like, it's being at the core of who you are, knowing who you are, allowing yourself to expand into that. And then I wrote down really big and, right. So like a lot of
Yes.
times it was the choose, right? Whether it was your role, like for women, choose, this and that, this or that, this or that. And like, we really want to start having the conversation where it's and. So you
Yes.
get add and. So it's like
Mhm.
you get to post about your kids and you get to post about your business, especially when we are having this conversation about being an entrepreneur, a solopreneur, a personal brand, whether you are doing real estate or
Mhm.
if you're doing what's it called, like the MMA, like the mass marketing, what like what I mean?
Yes.
Like
Yes.
whatever, like whatever
Affiliate marketing and all kinds of different things. Yeah.
of that doesn't
Mhm.
matter, like if you have it as this or that, just energetically too, like you're it's restrained. Like I'm
Yes.
so restrained.
Yes. Yeah, it's like chains. You're not chained to this page or that page. Interestingly, I was listening to a podcast with two very famous businessmen. Like we're talking to the point where probably one was almost a billionaire and the other one was a billionaire. And they both said the same thing. And again, the two of them were bringing up Dwayne Johnson, The Rock. And they said, do you know what his superpower is? Is he can weave in every one of his businesses into his personal posts and you don't feel like he's selling to you, right? Like he's sitting, in the evening and he pours himself his tequila. We know it's his tequila or we know it's his energy drink, but he
Yeah.
just does it in the way that it's just, hey, this is part of my life. It's not a separate part that I either show you on one page or the other. I'm going to pull it all together because it's all part of who I am.
Yeah. I love this because that just made me think too. So this is the opportunity of 2D flat. That's when you are posting just business, right? And like, I'm a businesswoman and I changed my shirt and I've got, like business.
Yes.
Or what people really are craving is 4D, the
Mhm.
freaking whole 360 enchilada, like, which is him being like, yeah, right. Yes, I'm going to have a drink and I'm going to sit here. And this is my, like at the end of my night, at the end of my workouts, at the end of my shoots, like this is how I unwind. Oh, there's my family. Like, what is it that makes you and that's what's beautiful and fun and like so freeing
Yeah.
about the personal brand concept, right?
Mhm.
About putting, your business under that lens of, oh, I am a personal brand.
Yep.
It becomes unchained, where you do get to say, like, oh, I glued to my, energy drink, or, like, oh, that's Heather. She always had that energy drink. Like it's just one element of who
Mhm.
I am, but that becomes your identifier. And then you don't have to pretend and you don't
Yes.
have to be flat. You
Yeah.
get to be the whole thing. And that's what people are great. That's what I want to see. Like I'm craving that and I believe, right? Like if we just draw those lines out to that, how do we get visible? Well, we have to have this confidence of what we're doing and not be censored and restrained and like look at it and like uh, to see that, just
Yeah.
like confidence in who you are, right, allows me to post however, whatever, it is. And to put the words together behind the post, to have the content just
Mhm.
flow a little more easily, that's the confidence that you need to get visible. Like that's how you get visible.
And I love that we've just brought up, let's say, one of our last topics, which is confidence, because I think all of this gets tied in together with that word confidence. You know, you need it to be able to feel confident enough to take on all this expansion that you are doing and the pivoting and the changing. Yeah, I changed my mind. this is what I want to do now. Or, yeah, I'm adding this to everything else that I'm doing. And why? Because I can.
Yeah.
Right. And it's, if people could get beyond there's this idea, I think, that we are meant to be in a box. But that's what I know you as. I know you as a realtor, as someone who worked for someone else or whatever it is. And I think a lot of people find it so hard to get themselves out of that box.
Yes, I think too, when I'm hearing you say that too, a couple things come up. So earlier you said, oh, will I confuse people if I do this and do this? I'm like, okay, so here's the thing that I heard, right? Or that I feel. It's that, sure, some people will be confused. Some people won't. And I believe it's the energy in which you deliver. If you have chaotic, uncertain, unconfident energy, is this okay that I'm talking about this? Is this a flash in the pan? Am I coming in hot and then I just disappear? That energy is confusing and chaotic. It doesn't, people don't think you can hold that, right? Versus knowing who you are at your core, seeing how now this pivot and this pivot isn't actually a pivot, it's an expansion of my core. It's a new expression that I'm finding and I'm feeling into, right? Like that energy with which you deliver that is completely different. And the people that will not get confused are the people that see that energy, right? And like, it's like, makes sense. That makes sense. Right. And like, I think that speaks to, your ability to pivot, to expand. Right. And then, another thing is knowing that you will never be 100% confident at all times. It is not waiting for the 100% certainty or confidence.
Yeah.
It's not waiting for the complete absence of imposter syndrome to move. Right. It's like, this is where courage meets confidence. And I said this in a post the other day and I was like, damn, that's good. So I said, confidence is that gorgeous dress hanging in your closet. Courage is putting it on and leaving the house, right? You have to have both. And sometimes the gap between courage and confidence is big, right? Sometimes you're going to have to just rely on that courage more. And the more you do, it'll build the confidence.
Yeah.
But sometimes as you practice and you stay in action and you keep doing the work of asking and knowing, who am I? What do I stand for at my core? Like, that's not just something you just tell yourself once. You tap back into it. That increases the confidence. And then the gap between confidence and courage becomes smaller. You don't have to, you can just get up there and do the thing. Right.
Yeah.
But I think those two things play really powerfully with each other. And it's all, see how this entire conversation, 80% of it was mindset.
Yes.
Like very little strategy comes because the strategy, we know all the strategy, like, enough strategy to get out there and make your sales, right? You don't have the confidence, the courage to go out and do it. Let's work there. And then whatever strategy you put behind that, it's going to work.
I love that. And the analogy that you use with the dress is so true, right? Because how many people, and you can take this literally or, subjectively, you've got that dress, that dress has been sitting in your closet forever. How often have you pulled it out? You're like, okay, oh no, you know what? It's just not the right time right now, or it's not the right occasion. Or what if I stick out if I wear that dress? I'm just going to put it back and I'm going to take out and I'm going to wear that again. Isn't that what people do with, even the idea of starting a business or becoming an entrepreneur or trying something different? It's like that dress. It's there. They know they want to do it, but
looks so good on you. It would look so good.
But it's going to be flashy. People are going to see you. You're going to be visible, but that's not comfortable. So let me go back to what's comfortable, not grow, still remain, not content or happy because of the uncomfortableness of becoming visible and, trying something different. And I just wish that people, and even those of you who are listening to this podcast or you're watching the YouTube version of this, if you would just stop being so scared of what other people will see or perceive you as, and just say, but I love that dress. And I'm going to wear the damn dress because I love it that much. And why not?
Yeah.
And stop really second guessing yourself. Just put it on and go. And the same thing with the decision, right? Make the decision and go, because there's really nothing bad that's going to happen if you do.
100%. I love that too. And here's what I heard too, which I love, is when you're putting on that dress and you go out and like you're uncomfortable, but yeah, you're kind of worried about making other people feel uncomfortable. Oh, you're overdressed. Oh no, you're fine. Like that. But know that is the permission. You dressing up and leaving the analogy of the dress, you leaving the house in that dress gives everyone in your atmosphere the permission to rise. That's what it does, because you can't play small and expect anyone else to rise, right? Like, and if that's part of, your core and part of the movement that you're creating. And I believe that like the movement I'm creating, I know the work that you're doing is to help other people rise. Well, they cannot rise if I am in my blue jeans and my t-shirt and my tennies, right? Like my permission, showing them what it looks like to rise gives them the permission to rise.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I know the majority of your listeners have, some sort of movement inside of them and mission inside of them that is helping other people to do something.
It's true. And I remember, like, I would say it was only just a few years ago, before it was okay. And let's actually take this literally, where I knew I was going out somewhere and I knew that I had to, I wanted to wear a certain dress, and it would cross my mind, but is this too dressy from where I'm going? Or is this too casual? Whereas now I actually just put on what makes me happy. And when someone questions me, like someone in my house, for example, would say, oh, you're sure that's not going to be too dressy or too whatever? My immediate response is, it makes me happy. I'm okay with what I'm wearing, and I'll be okay when I get there too, because I feel fine in my skin. And it's at that point where you're okay. And I think that if we were to take that idea and you bring it to social media and you say, well, I'm okay putting it out there that this is what I'm doing, or this is, the direction that I'm going. And I'm okay if nobody likes it, because that's not why I'm putting it out there. I'm not there for the likes. I'm there to make an impact to one person, maybe two people. It's like this podcast. I started this podcast with no one listening. Like there was nobody out there. It was just me talking to the airwaves. And then slowly it was one person or two people. But once you've realized that, I met this lady, I went to this conference that I really didn't think I'd know anyone at. And this lady said, oh my God, I listen to your podcast. I listen to it all the time when I'm driving. That's when I realized that there are people out there that you don't realize that you are impacting simply because you decided to be yourself. And someone out there might resonate with the fact that you've decided that you're going to put all these boundaries aside, move out of the box. And that's actually where the freedom comes from, I have found. It's just, you feel free to just be who you are. And that's when you realize who you are.
That is, my alarm's going off right there. That's so true. And so many things, but I'll just pull it together to say, right? Like it was that courage to just do it anyway, right? Regardless of the external validation. And within that, courage, you step out, this is the same, you grow your confidence when you hear yourself speaking, when you write it and you read your words and you allow yourself to refine it over time, knowing, and the first is never your best, right? Like, the first is shit.
It's not meant to be your best.
Not meant to be your best, but you have to, the quote is that you don't have to be an expert to get started, but you have to be started to become the expert.
Yes.
So it is that courage, and what you're you're giving other people who you may not know who's watching you the permission to be courageous, the permission to go try, the permission to refine it as you go. And there's something also really beautiful and powerful about being at the beginning when you don't have any eyes on you. You get to practice. you get to practice and you get better and you don't have to worry about it. And it's all just really powerful. All comes together. So, so much like understanding there's a gap between courage and confidence in the beginning. Right. And I can tell you and preach to you all about, how you have to have this confidence in all the strategic ways that, the very real like methods to helping you develop confidence. But there's gonna be a gap, right? There's gonna be a gap. Sometimes it's a huge leap. Yeah. And sometimes it's just a little skip, but we know, circling back, like not only are women really powerful and courageous, I know that we as human beings, we just are, like I know that it's in your listeners. I know that it's in them right now. If they found their way here to you in this moment, it's because they desire to be better and they have a desire to, close that gap, like take the leap, small, big.
Yeah.
Be rewarded. You will only be rewarded.
And that's just really what it is. Like things are never as bad as you think they're going to be. They always turn out far better than you imagine. They really do. And if they don't, it means you learned something, a really valuable lesson that you can bring with you to the next thing that you decide to do. That's really all there is. It's either it works or you learned from it. That's it.
100%. That's just the mindset to have. It's amazing.
Well, this has been so fun. I literally looked at stuff. I was like, how did this time go by already so fast? But, for anyone watching or listening, please go follow Heather May. She's amazing. You're going to love the content that she puts out on Facebook, on Instagram, and, look up, what it is that she does. I am sure that she can be of help to you if you are a female entrepreneur and you do want to start getting out there, moving out on your own, the branding, the marketing. You're phenomenal at marketing. I know that for a fact. So, look her up, send her a message, let her know if you watched this podcast and what you thought of it. And until next time, this has been wonderful.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I will say I'm primarily over on Instagram. So, and on Instagram, at Heather May Brown. And it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.